Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, and for the Artemis generation, this is for you. At this time, I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
Copy, Launch Director, and thank you. All right, we do have a couple of steps to configure, and then we will be ready to resume the clock. CVSE, NTD.
CVSE here.
Initiate recording of Orion cameras at this time.
In work.
NTD.
RSR here.
Perform the booster ignition SNA arm rotation enable.
NDT, RSR, booster ignition SNA arm and rotation enable is complete.
And I copy. Thank you.
Okay, so there you heard the poll from Launch
All right,
Director.
and all personnel, we are going to resume the clock here momentarily.
So I might have to guess on the
Getting ready to get that new
time.
T0 time.
Okay, we're here in firing room 1, and after
The poll that you heard
phase,
was the NASA test director's poll. And
All right, and we have verified no cutouts at this time. And all personnel, we are going to resume the clock. GLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. Countdown clock will resume on my mark.
Oh, God.
3, 2, 1.
Mark.
GLS mainline has been initiated.
Okay,
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
we are T-minus
10
10
minutes
minutes
and
away
counting.
from liftoff of Artemis 1. As you can see, the clock is now moving. Let's put that up. T-minus 9 minutes and 47 seconds. The L-minus
NTD
15
Houston
poll
flight
complete.
show
It went
064744 is the new liftoff time.
Affirm.
Okay.
Okay, I got our clock pretty good. Okay, I got to remove all of the...
014744, 1:47 a.m.
Thank you.
Eastern
I'm
Time,
good
and
enough with that.
44
That's-
seconds.
Holy crap, guys.
We went straight into terminal count.
Oh my gosh.
Liftoff now 9 minutes away.
All right, our
So terminal
team's here.
count.
Okay,
Control has been given over to the GLS, the ground launch sequencer, a computer and software that is doing all of the commanding and monitoring of the Space Launch System. We'll hear call-outs from the GLS operator, Alex Pandalos. As well as NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding. GLS is pre-tensioning the umbilicals at this very moment. You can see them as they run down the rocket. That's getting them ready to detach. At liftoff, those arms will swing away. We'll let go of the rocket in a clockwise direction.
guys, this is happening.
T-minus 8 minutes and counting.
T-minus 8 minutes.
The GLS is performing up to 100 commands per second.
I'm performing 100.
Including
per
configuring
second.
ground systems for power transfer to the rocket. GLS is turning on camera.
So, guys, from our perspective here, we'll get back to having Daryl walk through what the teams are actually doing. But I do want to report from our end here. The night sky, we've had the moon coming up over the horizon. This is the clearest. I mean, you can see the moon clear as day right now, and stars. I mean, we're actually going to see a beautiful launch here. If this thing goes off in 7 minutes, this is going to be stunning. This is going to be an absolutely gorgeous launch. It's a perfect night for a test flight.
Awesome.
This is, the stars are finally aligning.
They're the best,
Thank you
but
guys so much
they're
for tuning in
awesome.
with us. This is going to be incredible. I want to run you
see
through a
it
few
go
of our
until
cameras again
there's
real
no
quick,
flames moving
just so you can get a sense of what we kind of, let's do a practice at T-minus 10 seconds or so. We'll probably have the engine shots here. Like that, I think that's probably the right camera. Once we see the solid boosters ignite, I think it's time we go down. Yep, Andrew's already got it. Then once that's happening, I think we're going to kick back to our That camera, you'll see it go up through the sky. Hopefully by the time it clears the frame, we've got something on a tracking camera. We've got multiple tracking assets here with Cooper. We've got NASA's tracking assets that'll go online here. Hope they just came online, so we can check those out here in a second. So that's one of the NASA assets. They will of course get that tracking camera focused, I'm sure, before they light the candle. I do love this shot, except that it's in 720. That's one of the only feeds that NASA's giving us in 720. So between all of ours, we're going to end up with some beautiful 4K views. This is going to be incredible.
Go for core stage tank pressurization.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, we do have maybe one of the most important things here at Everyday Astronaut. As a rocket orientation specialist, I do have to do my due diligence here. Run me through those cameras again with any view you can, Andrew. I need to get one very important check. One very important check. The one thing I'm here for. The one thing I'm okay at in life. There's go back to that other shot actually. The pointy end in this the rocket is up, and I can see it with my own eyes. And based on the other camera, the flamey end is down. Pointy end is up. Flamey end is down. We're going here at Team Everyday Astronaut. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I want to say I'm going to get off the air here and just basically let NASA do the talking here in just a second. But I do want to just say one last thank you guys all so much for watching with us. If you're here tuning in, we're going to provide you some really clean 4K views.
Go for
and I'm going to actually basically shut up and just listen or try really hard. I just want to thank you for watching. Again, for all the super chats, I'll get to as many of them as I can when we can. You guys are incredible. It really means the world to me. This is just an absolute dream come true. I've been dreaming of this day for a long time, so thank you for those of you that are watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you want to help support the algorithm and hopefully get more people in to watch and witness history. Thank you so much. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thanks for the team out here that has stuck with it with me for the third launch attempt now. To everybody here that has made this happen, I am just so thankful. I've saved some of that for after it launches, but I just want to let you know that this is it, and I am like, my heart is racing right now, and I'm so excited. And one last thing, if you do want to support what we do and get yourself an awesome RS-25 shirt, everydayastronaut.com/shop. You can take 10% off today by using coupon code launch day, all one word, all lowercase. You get 10% off of
go for core
the
stage
RS-25 shirt, everydayastronaut.com/shop. That's it. I'm going to listen in now. I'm going to get ready to stand up and try to keep some composure as I witness the most powerful rocket launch that I possibly could have in my lifetime so far. And this is it, guys. So don't mind me if I'm going to stand up here at T-1 minute, but I'm going to just listen in and be a spectator along with all of you, my friends.
GLS is go for perf sequence 4.
Okay. I do want to fill the silence, but I don't want to talk over anybody. But I think at this point, we all know we're T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds from seeing hopefully some beautiful, beautiful history tonight. Skies are looking fantastic. I can't believe it's cleared up so much.
The 4 core stage RS-25 engines gimbaling around, testing the ability to steer the rocket into space. They will operate at 109% performance. Each RS-25 throwing down 500,000 pounds of thrust. All 4, 2 million pounds. All together with the boosters, 8.8 million pounds of thrust.
GLS go for upper stage to internal power.
Now the upper stage has gone to internal power. So power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery power. The same milestone is coming up for the core stage at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds.
GLS go for core stage to internal power.
The rocket's core stage, which houses the 3 flight computers, is now on battery power. So there is no more hold time available because there's no more margin on the batteries. So if we have a hold, we'd have to recycle back to T-minus 10 minutes and recharge those batteries. The count continues. A note now, shortly after liftoff.
1 minute.
Shortly after liftoff, Mission Control Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague, Leah Cheshire, will take over commentary. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. Coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, the GLS will hand off control to the ALS. This is the autonomous launch sequencer. On board the rocket, it will take over command and control of the rocket. But the ALS will check, make sure there's no holds coming from the ground up until T-minus 2
GLS
seconds.
is go for ALS.
And we are go for ALS. The Space Launch System is now counting down to liftoff of Orion on its maiden voyage to the moon. Launch team can no longer recycle the count. Sound suppressor water now flowing
15.
under the ML. And here we go.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiated. 7, 6, 5. 4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
All 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour. Hearing good control on the roll from teams in Mission Control Houston. All good calls so far. Now 30 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1. First milestone will be for the vehicle to pass through max Q at about 1 minute and 9 seconds into launch. This is the greatest period of atmospheric force on the rocket. SLS now traveling 607 miles per hour. You're looking at 8.8 million pounds of maximum thrust. Quiet here in the loops in Mission Control. The 4 core stage engines throttling down ahead of passing through max Q. Now 1 minute, 21 seconds into the flight, traveling at 1,420 miles per hour. The 4 core stage engines are back at maximum thrust. The next major milestone will be for the solid rocket boosters to cut off and jettison at about 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the flight, so about 30 seconds from now. Again, quiet here in Mission Control Houston as teams continue monitoring the flight of Artemis 1. We're now 16 miles downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, traveling over 2,800 miles per hour. Standing by for solid rocket booster jettison and shortly thereafter. Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated these 177-foot boosters. Now the core stage. Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated these 177-foot boosters. Now the core stage continues to power the flight of Orion, all 4 RS-25 engines firing, traveling over 3,400 miles per hour, 46 miles downrange. 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the flight. Hearing nominal calls here in Mission Control Houston. We've still got 4 good engines on the core stage. Next up, we'll be looking for the service module fairing to separate. This is 3 15 by 15-foot fairing panels, providing structural support, protecting the service module. Those will separate at about 3 minutes and 11 seconds into flight, and very shortly thereafter will be followed. That the service module fairing has separated. And that the launch abort system powers have fired, separating those We just had confirmation that the launch abort system pyros have fired, separating those from Orion as well. For future crew members, and that the launch abort system pyros have fired, separating those from Orion as well. For future crew members,
we lost comms there, but
we just heard the call for 3-engine press, meaning if SLS were to lose an engine at this point in the mission, we could still achieve a nominal mission. We would just have an extended main engine cutoff time. However, we still have 4 good engines, all at maximum thrust right now, powering the first flight of Artemis at 5,200 miles per hour, 148 miles downrange. All at maximum thrust right now, powering the first flight of Artemis at 5,200 miles per hour, 148 miles downrange. We're 4 minutes and 16 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1.
I can still see it with
so
my
far,
eyes.
we've had a clean ascent. We saw those solid rocket boosters jettison about 2 minutes and 11 seconds after liftoff. Shortly after, we had the service module panels, fairings separate, as well as the launch abort system. The launch abort system was inert for this flight, except to perform this separation.
Just so you guys know, that shot you see, that's what NASA's
Those 4
sending
core
us
stage
right
engines
now.
will continue to fire and power the flight of Artemis 1.
We do have ours.
Now
We still are
traveling over
tracking. Actually, Cooper is still tracking. We can show you that
Those
again.
4 core stage engines will continue to fire.
He hasn't lost it the whole time. So that little dot you see is still
now
the 4 RS-25 engines. Still going. I don't know why NASA's feed is just that stalled animation at this point. So at least we've got something for you guys. I'm sorry that it's look at that, still tracking it.
Our core stage main engine
I mean, that is, guys, that is a dot just so tiny in the sky. We can still see it with my own eyes, line of sight, right here, right down the middle. Unbelievable. I mean, and so we're still tracking. It's still
core stage engines,
our shot there. What is that?
The last time those core stage engines flew, they were taking space shuttles to orbit. Now with upgraded capabilities, they're launching the future of human spaceflight.
It was finally worth it to come out here. All of the effort. I love you guys all. Everyone that is still watching this with us, even though we don't really have much to show you right now, besides a little tiny white dot in the sky.
Downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center.
Is that even a video anymore? It is. It's just barely moving.
Again, we are anticipating.
That's insane. Good thing we have 4K because we're down to about 1 pixel of rocket.
About 10 seconds later,
but
we'll see core stage separation.
I love you guys. Thank you
Orion
so freaking much for watching with us. This is just a dream come true. There we actually have some frame of reference that it is still moving. Look at that. As he's tracking it, we're starting to see the top of that mast there coming into frame. But we are coming up on, we're kind of getting into the clouds there.
Continue to monitor this first flight.
I can't believe this.
About a minute and a half now until that core stage main engine cutoff time. Our 4 core stage
So I guess what we could be doing probably is starting to prepare to try to watch some replays. See if our things worked out okay. It might take us a minute here to... Oh, wait, we probably have to flip those recorders around to go outputs on them.
Coming up on 7 minutes since launch today. Now traveling
There's the
over
launch pad
12,800
afterwards.
miles per
Look
hour,
at that.
563 miles downrange. Again,
that is
still
awesome.
quiet here in Mission Control, Houston.
Where there once was a rocket, there's nothing. That's the moon. As soon as we get video back from NASA, we will be able to pull that up. We'll also play our replays here.
As we prepare for main engine
let's go ahead and pull up their audio again so we can make sure that everything's good. Because we're coming up on booster being done. Oh, the audio we hear, by the way, is
30 seconds now until core stage main engine cutoff. All 4 engines continue to throttle down. 30 seconds now until core stage main engine cutoff. All 4 engines continue to throttle down.
Looks like it's snowing there, doesn't it?
Now 7 minutes 45 seconds into the flight, traveling over 16,000 miles per hour. We're standing by for core stage main engine cutoff. Continuing to hear good calls here in Mission Control Houston. We're standing by for core stage main engine cutoff. And we have confirmation of core stage main engine cutoff. Orion is now in Earth's orbit. The Flight
There we
Dynamics
go.
officer reports that we have a
Sweet.
nominal main engine cutoff.
Okay, of course.
And we just heard the call for core stage separation. That means Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage are now flying free from the core stage of the Space Launch System. The next milestone will be solar array deployed approximately 18 minutes after liftoff. But before Orion stretches its wings, let's check back in with our friends at Kennedy Space Center and hear all about what it was like to hear the rocket roar off the launch pad. Megan and Kayla, I've got to hear all about it. With our friends at Kennedy Space Center and hear all about what it was like to hear the rocket roar off the launch pad. Megan and Kayla, I've got to hear all about it.
Well, if
Oh,
you're just
my
joining us,
word.
welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we just watched Artemis 1 launch, our first step towards our next adventure into deep space. As Leah said, I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Kayla Barron.
So, of course, what we're seeing now is just an animated representation of the vehicle.
I don't even know how to explain how I'm feeling right now.
Well, we'll be still getting updates. At this point, though, what we're waiting for, obviously that was the core booster shut off. It let go of the upper stage. All of this is database. We should actually get video feeds from NASA here soon on board Orion, I hope. But the next thing, the big one, is the perigee raise maneuver, where they're going to light the RL-10 engine at the apogee. And then that is going to be at 51 minutes. So that's the next big event. That will prevent the Orion capsule from prematurely re-entering along with the core stage. Because right now the core stage and the upper stage, although they've detached and are kind of slowly separating, they're more or less going to, at this point, re-enter the Earth on the next orbit in about an hour and a half or so. They would re-enter in the Pacific Ocean. Not good. So what they do is at 51 minutes, they're going to light the RL-10B2 engine on the upper stage, and they're going to raise the perigee. They're going to raise the lowest point in the orbit that will properly put the vehicle, the Orion spacecraft and the upper stage, that'll properly put it into an orbit, as opposed to right now it's technically suborbital because its perigee is so low it'll intercept with the Earth's atmosphere and would destroy anything. The Orion spacecraft could probably obviously survive with its heat shield first, but anything that was coming in like that would be destroyed. So that's why it has to do this perigee raise maneuver. It has to be able to relight the engine, not fully circularize, but just raise the perigee enough that it gets outside of the Earth's atmosphere so that it can do its translunar injection at about an hour and a half. So, holy absolute crap, I cannot believe that happened. Even though I was ready for it, I was not ready for it, and even though I was not ready for it, I was so ready for it. I don't know how to describe it. I will say my experience, two things. Number one, it was so bright. I still have like stains, burns in my eyes. It was, those solid rocket boosters were insane. Seeing it also, it took a little bit for me to process that it actually was lifting off, even though again, this is supposed to be what I do for a living, is explain this kind of stuff and understand it. But there's something else about it, when I actually saw the orangey thing going up and the flamey parts shooting out of it, it's just separate and everything. So it was a lot to take in. It was insane. I didn't cry. Hey, that's a good thing. I didn't cry. It was just pure elation. A lot of hard work from everybody.
And the trajectory.
All right, so we've got some replay coming. If there's any way that we can record some of this, actually, and I would love to start tweeting some of that. That was some good stuff. Okay. All right, replay. This is a replay. Okay, you see the water, you see the RS-25 ignition there, that's the core stage, and then when everything shakes, that's a solid rocket lighting up. Oh my God. We actually did record that. That is actually recorded in slightly... That's actually recorded for us here in 60 frames a second. So I don't know if our thing will allow us to do that yet, but I don't know if we have a way of slowing it down right now off of the little recorder that we have here. But the good thing is, we do have it, and we will be able to see it at some point in half speed, which is going to be absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh, I just can't even believe that happened. Still, I'm sorry, and I'm trying to find. We've already got some beautiful replays I'm seeing from everybody. That is just incredible. Oh man. All right. Let's keep going back. Do we have? Let me know if we have another one we're gonna pull up here. Okay, they're working on it here, and I'm gonna keep trying to answer you guys' questions in between nerding out over this stuff. I don't need. Oh man, I just can't believe it. This is from Liz. Always love your passion, Tim. As a Patreon member, I love following you on your journey. Thanks for all the wild rides and sending love from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you so much, Liz. It really means a lot. Thank you for your not only your Patreon support, but also your generous donation. It makes stuff like this possible. So thank you so much. All right, we're gonna show you guys another replay here. This is a replay. Check it out. You can see the RS-25. The 4 engines in the middle are going to be what light up first, and you'll obviously first we'll see the Rainbirds actually pop up here. When you start seeing water deluge, that's going to be the first sign. Actually, we might have rewound a little bit too far back because we don't even have Rofi ignition yet. I can't be patient. Here we
You were part of a first. Doesn't come along very often. Once in a career, maybe. But we are all part of something incredibly special, the first launch of Artemis. The first step in returning our country to the moon and on to Mars. What you have done today will inspire generations to come. So thank you. Thank you for your resilience. You know, I said at the pre-test briefing, the harder the climb, the better the view. We showed the Space Coast tonight. What a beautiful view it is. So congratulations. So we got a couple of traditions here in launch control. And the first one is when you're in the position for the first time, you get a tie cutting. And so I have my launch director scissors. And I'm going to get my tie cut by a couple of legends that are here. And then anyone who wants their tie cut will be making the rounds in the firing room. You got your console chiefs. If they want to do it, that's fine. If you want me to do it, you might have to wait a little while, but I'll stay all night if I have to. It'll be my pleasure to cut ties. So I'm going to take care of mine, and then I have one other presentation that I want to make this evening.
This is Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, Artemis 1 launch director. She just got her tie cut. That is a tradition here at NASA. We just got to hear her talk to the team, and one thing that really stuck out to me that she said is that they've really earned their place in history. We're coming up on solar array deploy. Let's go on to Leah.
Thanks, Megan. And yes, we're here in Mission Control Houston, still monitoring the Artemis 1 mission and the first flight of Orion atop the Space Launch System. So far, we saw successful liftoff at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Time, all the way through separation from the core stage. We now have Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage flying free. And we've just heard that we have initiated solar array deploy. So we are turning our focus to that. The spacecraft was running on battery power, but stretching these wings will allow it to stop relying on those batteries and significantly extend the time it can stay in space. So solar array deploy takes about 12 minutes. We have 4 solar arrays that we need to deploy and latch. These will provide power to the spacecraft on its journey to distant retrograde orbit and all the way back to Earth. Once these are properly configured, again, Orion will no longer need to rely solely on battery power. And we expect this to be done about 30 minutes after liftoff. Right now, we're 19 minutes since liftoff today. Orion is now traveling 17,175 miles per hour. We're continuing to hear good calls here in Mission Control Houston from the flight controllers monitoring the mission. A little bit about these solar arrays as we wait. Again, we heard the call that the deploy has been initiated. We'll hear a little bit more about that once they start to unfold. These 4 solar arrays generate 11 kilowatts of power, which is enough electricity to power 2 3-bedroom houses, and they have a wingspan of 63 feet. Just one of these 6.5 by 6.5 foot panels has 1,250 solar cells. So you're looking at a total of 15,000 solar cells. Now, we just heard the call that all 4 solar arrays have been released. So we initially heard the initiation call. That command had been sent. Now those 4 solar arrays are released. Again, this is about a 12-minute process. The solar arrays will deploy straight, and you're getting a live view right now. This is really exciting. They'll eventually be swept back against the vehicle prior to translunar injection burn to prevent any loads from breaking or damaging the arrays. And on the end of each solar array is a camera that will capture imagery for us throughout the mission, along with a few other cameras placed outside and inside the spacecraft to help us monitor and perform various other inspections. Of course, if you recall the Apollo capsule design, there were no solar arrays. We had fuel cells instead. So this design with arrays gives us the opportunity to stay in orbit longer since we practically have no limit to the energy available for use from the sun. Coming up on 21 minutes since liftoff. Orion is attached to the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. You can see those 4 solar arrays unfolding now. And again, Artemis 1 is a flight test. It's paving the way for a sustainable presence at the moon. Looking forward to the future, Gateway will be our space station in lunar orbit. And we have some similarities and differences in the solar arrays unfolding right now on Orion and those that'll be on Gateway. So like we're seeing now, these are deploying autonomously. The Gateway solar arrays will as well. And while these generate those 11 kilowatts of power, the 2 rollout solar arrays, or ROSAs, on Gateway will generate 60 kilowatts of power. That ROSA design is currently being tested aboard the space station. We have 2 new ones installed and a spacewalk conducted earlier today, preparing for another set. Coming up on 22 minutes since liftoff today, Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage traveling over 16,800 miles per hour. The solar arrays deploying now are part of the European Service Module. It's comprised of 20,000 parts and components. The Service Module was developed as part of an agreement between NASA and the European Space Agency, or ESA. This is the first time NASA is using a European-built system as a critical element to power an American spacecraft. Coming up now, and 24 minutes into the flight of Artemis 1, spacecraft now traveling at 16,500 miles per hour around the Earth. We are in solar array deploy, and we have confirmation all 4 arrays are deployed. Coming up in a little less than 30 minutes is the perigee raise maneuver. And with our launch at 1:41 Eastern Time this morning, we are looking for a perigee raise maneuver about 53 minutes into today's flight. Again, we are now 25 minutes and 47 seconds into the flight, and we have a complete deployment of all 4 solar arrays. Orion's journey to the moon continues as planned. Again, looking forward to that perigee raise maneuver. That'll be coming up again at about 53 minutes into the mission, so about 27 minutes from now. During the perigee raise maneuver, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage will use its RL-10 engine to lift the lowest point of Orion in Earth's orbit. The current orbit is more of an oval shape than a perfect circle, and this burn will raise that point closest to Earth and make the orbit more circular. This will also include a checkout of Orion's systems and any adjustments to the solar arrays. It'll be a short burn, less than 30 seconds long, but critical to keep us on track, and it also prepares us for the next engine burn to send Orion to the moon. That's the translunar injection burn. That'll come up a little later, which is a longer burn, another firing of the RL-10 engine on the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. We caught a glimpse there of those solar arrays, and with all 4 solar arrays properly deployed, Orion's journey to the moon continues, and we've got more operational updates coming up shortly, but for now, I'm going to toss it back to Megan and Kayla at Kennedy.
Leah, thank you so much. Our return to the moon will be different than the last time. We plan to explore more of the lunar surface and learn how to live and work there. With more on our destination, let's bring back NASA's Dan Hewitt with our new moon board.
Hey, thanks, Megan. I gotta be honest, we ran outside to catch it. I'm still shaking a little bit. That never gets old. That is always one of the coolest things you'll ever see in your entire life. And that rocket was massive and loud and just so cool. All right, the moon. This is why we call it the moon board, but the moon, you know, since the dawn of time, humans have looked at the sky and shouted at our neighbor, "I'm gonna walk in your face." And in the 60s, we actually did it. 6 times, starting with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Apollo 11, 1969, followed by 5 more successive landings, each time delivering 2 human beings to the surface of the moon. Our last one was Apollo 17, and that was in 1972, Gene Cernan and Harrison Smith stepping off for the last time. Now, we have not sent humans back since then, but they accomplished a lot under Apollo. Lots of technological advancements, deployed science instruments, brought back hundreds of pounds of lunar rocks and regolith, teaching us about the moon and also about our place in the solar system. The moon is fascinating because it doesn't have a lot of the geological processes we have here on Earth. You don't have erosion, you don't have wind and water wearing down rocks. You don't have plate tectonics that are constantly recycling the crust. And so everything out there is really old. In fact, one of the rocks brought back on Apollo 15 called the Genesis rock was dated to be 4 billion years old. So from the primordial beginnings of our solar system. But as Kayla said a little bit earlier, those missions were measured in days, their spacewalks in just hours. With Artemis, we're looking to go and we're looking to stay. And we're not looking around the equator like under Apollo, we're looking at the lunar South Pole. Now, why? So we haven't sent people since the 70s to the moon, but we haven't stopped studying it. We've had orbiters like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has literally just been flying loops around the moon, taking high-resolution images of the surface, so high resolution that you can look them up. They have images of all the different Apollo landing sites, and you can actually see the footprints, the paths they left in the lunar regolith of those sites. We had a mission called L-Cross, which slammed a probe into a crater on the moon, sending out material, some of which potentially hadn't seen direct sunlight for billions of years, and then analyzing what shot out. And through missions like that and others, we've been able to find that there is water ice trapped in those permanently shadowed areas on the moon. A lot of them center around that South Pole. We have already identified 13 potential landing sites for the Artemis 3 mission. And these are where we're going to send our astronauts around the lunar South Pole to access that water ice. Now, why water? Why are we caring about water? Well, it serves a lot of purposes. Obviously, for humans, you need that to breathe. You can split water apart, get oxygen for breathing gas for an atmosphere. If you have a lunar base, you can split it into oxygen and hydrogen. That's rocket fuel. We just launched the most powerful rocket in history using those constituent parts. And so you can start to live off the land. We can use that, something called in situ resource utilization. And really, the whole point of that is to use the moon as this proving ground. We're trying to get to Mars. We're trying to learn to live on other planets where there is gravity, where we're going to have to use resources there on the ground because we won't be able to bring everything with us. And by going to the lunar South Pole, by going to stay under Artemis, we're going to be able to start practicing that. We're going to perfect those systems, perfect those techniques and operations we need to do that so we can use the moon as that jumping off point to Mars and beyond. So that's why the moon. We're going to see Orion fly around it for the very first time in just a couple of days. That launch was spectacular. I'm still way too excited, but can't wait to see some shots of the moon from up close from Orion. So I'll send it back over to you, Megan.
Thanks so much, Dan. So right now we're actually joined by members of the Red Crew. You'll remember from watching the launch coverage that the Red Crew was sent out by the launch team when the launch team identified a small leak on a hydrogen valve inside of the mobile launcher. Well, now here they are. This is Trent Annis. Trent, can you just introduce everybody else here on your team?
Yeah, so this is Chad. He's our safety guy. And behind me is Billy. And he's the experienced hydrogen tech out here.
And the three of you guys really, I would say, saved the day today. I mean, really, you guys had to go in there to what's called the blast danger zone. You guys are specially trained to be able to do operations on the pad while cryo is loading. Talk to us about getting that call, being told, hey, you guys need to go in there. And it was the first time for all three of you.
Yeah, all I could say is we were very excited. I was ready to get up there and go.